Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Evagnoni.
bringing you this week's Ascended World Collective Energy Share. Things are just moving so fast. It's like we have such a hard, challenging time with like a topic that we talk about even like the day before.
Right. That was just yesterday.
It was.
Yeah.
So, what do we wanted to talk about how to do with a lot of, well, think about it. This whole year, right? 2020 has been completely, I think you would like maybe entitle it the unexpected year.
Right. Or the year of the unexpected.
Yeah. And so, I mean, really, had you said in January to many people that we would have gone through what we've gone through in the past 6 months, I mean, how many people have been like, yeah, right.
Oh, I know. They would have been like, no, that would never happen.
Right. Right. And so,
Well, and I think we started talking about the earthquake yesterday.
right, because I'm like, and that's the funny thing is like, so we had a little earthquake here in North Carolina, and it's not like it's that usual of a thing, but it was just so funny because, I mean, I was walking into my bedroom and I literally could feel the rumble, but I thought it was my husband because he's a heavy walker, and my daughter was in the living room and she goes, I think we're having an earthquake, and I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, because she was sitting on a chair that was like moving or like rumbling. And then I was like, oh, isn't that wild? And it was so funny because it was like literally like, okay.
Yeah.
And like somebody put a meme up I saw yesterday. It was like, it said, North Carolina started the week with a hurricane, ended with an earthquake.
That sums it up. That's where we are.
That's where we are. Yes.
That's where we are.
And so, and it's not like, and so the funny thing is, in a way, it's like what we were talking about, right? Is in a way, it's really a great thing because it's really pushing us to be fluid to so many things that we weren't fluid to before, right?
Right. And to expect the unexpected and to take it in stride and then learn how to work with that and use it to your advantage.
Yeah. Right. And the other point, what we're talking about is that the unexpected doesn't need to be a negative thing. And if it's a negative thing, that's our choice to create it in a negative way.
Right.
And like, so you and I both had perfect examples of that from this just past week. We had a lot of it's like all the unexpected stuff is just ramping up, right?
Right.
So, with me, it had to do with the package because, both my kids' birthdays, one was yesterday, the other is tomorrow, and had ordered some stuff. And one package that originally wasn't supposed to come until today, they moved it up to Friday. I'm sorry, I'm thinking my face like a piece of hair or something. It's just bugging me. And so then they had moved up to Friday, and then I was like, oh, well, that's nice. And then I get a notice that I was like, wait, are UPS? And it was coming UPS. And the UPS person had come and gone. And I was like, wait, that package didn't come. So I went and looked at the tracking, and it said, incorrect address or something. And I was like, huh? Which, of course, like I said, the first thought was, oh crap, did I put my old address on it by accident or whatever?
You automatically think that you've done something.
Right. So then I was like, so I click on it, and then I'm like, no, that's the right address. And then they didn't give me an option to check it. I had to put the address in again. They're like, okay, well, it'll be redelivered Monday. And then I was like, oh, it's sort of sad because I had changed my expectations about getting it in time for my daughter's birthday.
Right.
And so I called UPS. And, and here's the thing. And the whole time I was like, oh, well, that sort of stinks. But I wasn't attached to it. That's the whole thing we always talk about, right? Not being attached to the outcome. And I was like,
right. And when you get into that mode of the anger and the, well, that's just not right, and the injustice and the unfairness and all that, you become attached to that result.
Right. And like wanting to project that.
This is what's going to happen. And so I now am going to be angry about it, and I'm going to do this and, give them a piece of my mind and blah, blah, blah.
Right. And really my biggest thing was calling them to think, because I was thinking, well, if they thought that the address was wrong before and I just put in the same address, is it still going to have
What
the
are
same
they doing?
problem? Yeah. So I called them and I was like, I'm like, hey, so this is what happened. And it was supposed to be, delivered today. And so the woman looked and she goes, well, let me call you back. Let me go and look and see what happened. I'll call you back. And she called me, and which a lot of times they don't, right? Or they say they're
Right.
going, or they do say, she calls me back and she's like, there's another, like, apparently they had multiple labels on the box and they were looking at the wrong label. The label's fine, whatever. And then she goes, is it okay? It'll be on the truck to be delivered on Monday. And I said, well, it's really not, because it's for a birthday present for this weekend. And I would love to, I really would prefer to have it today. And she said, all right, well, let me see what I can do and I'll call you back. So she called me back again. And then she hung up and called me back again. And then she was like, okay. And at this point it was like 6:00 on Friday. Right. And she
Right.
said, and
Which
so
you
I
have
had,
the expectation that everybody's gone home.
right.
It's
Right.
COVID times.
That's right. Right. So she called me back and then she said, so, they could, the driver said he'll take it out to your house tonight. And she's like, is it okay if they leave it at the front door? And first she goes, or tomorrow, would it be okay tomorrow? I said, honestly, it's fine as long as it's before Sunday. And so she's like, well, he's going to try to take it out tonight as long as he can leave it on the front porch. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So, right. So I'm like, okay. So I hung up and then forgot about it, had the whole evening, went to go turn out, the front porch light. And then I was like, oh, I have to go see if the package came. And I opened the door and it was sitting right there. And I thought, that was so awesome. Right. They must have delivered it at like 9:30 or something.
And easy.
Yeah. And easy. Right. And so like that was an unexpected circumstance and I flowed with the whole thing and it worked out to my advantage. Right. And then you had the same kind of thing too, right?
Yeah, we had a rental car, and we noticed before we left that one of the tires was very worn unevenly, and my husband kept saying, and driving it, it kept pulling to that side. So I was having to fight it the whole time. We're like, oh, we'll deal with it. If we have a problem, we can just call the rental car people. So going down the highway and we hear a sound and it's like, what was that? I don't know. I didn't see anything in the road. And then I noticed that I think my husband's texting and he goes, it's really windy. And I'm looking and the trees aren't moving. It turns out he looks down at the tire pressure sensor and he's like, we blew a tire. And it was down to 9 pounds. It wasn't a total blowout. It was just down to 9 pounds. So we immediately slowed. We made it 10 more miles, pulled into a nowhere gas station. There was a shady spot, pulled off, called the company, and they're like, well, I hope you pulled off near a hotel because you have to unload everything out of the car and we'll come tow it and check into the hotel and we'll try to get you something within 24 to 48 hours. Well, that wasn't fitting with our plans. So, and then she said, or if you want to use your AAA, they can just come change the tire and we won't have to charge you the $55 fee for changing a tire.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point we were like, no. So 36 minutes later, we had everything unloaded. We had the tire changed and everything loaded back in and we're back on the road. And it was a full-size spare, but it still didn't fix the problem of the front tire and the pulling and everything else. So we started calling saying, let us just get to our destination and then we'll trade cars. And they're like, no, we can probably give you a minivan, but that's it. And we're like, that's not big enough for what we have, what we need. So we called and made other arrangements. We're trying to make other arrangements. And we finally called where we rented the car from. And they were like, oh, well, we have a national policy with Firestone. So just take it there and get another tire. And we were like, oh, okay. So it turns out the hotel we had reservations in, there was a Firestone right across the street.
Yep. Perfect.
Then we addressed the other tire and said, something needs to be done about this one too. So they replaced both tires, aired them up, rotated back, got everything done. And they said, well, given that it's, a national account, we'd have to get approval, or, you can pay and then they'll take it off your rental when you go to turn it in. And we had to use last year's model's tires and we only had 2 left. So it's only $187.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For 2 big SUV tires.
Right.
So it was a win because now he doesn't have to fight the steering. And we had the confidence knowing that we have 4 good tires now that had been looked at.
Right. Right.
But had we just been stuck with, we're on the side of the road, we've got all our stuff and it's days, and become attached to that, we couldn't have created this better resolution.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and those are just some great personal experiences, but and they seem petty, but these are things that hook people into distractions all the time, right?
Well, a good example is look at the education system.
Mm-hmm.
And what a perfect opportunity now to lose our attachment to a system that was outdated and so ineffectual for such a large majority of children.
Yeah.
They had to be medicated to fit into the system.
I agree. Yeah.
Now's the opportunity to make it better than it was.
Right. So instead of just putting Band-Aids on it.
Right.
What if we reassess the whole thing?
Attachment to what it was and fixing it and putting it back, and let's attach to better.
Yeah.
Let's attach to future.
Right.
Let's attach for something that works for everybody.
Right. And we're going to continue. We're going to continue with the unexpected. And in fact, I feel like it's ramping up. So
I agree.
So the thing to do with every step along the way is, what can I do with this right now? What is there? And it always goes back to those 2 questions. What is there for me to be, and what is there for me to do right now?
Right now. Right? And then listen.
And listen, right?
Listen for the answer. And
sometimes it seems really petty or inane, do this or and it was funny because what did you say? What did you say your husband kept on having pings about before you left that turned out to be? There was something. Yeah, there was something you said that he brought something up. Maybe it was your daughter because she started misplacing her wallet or something.
Oh, she kept misplacing her wallet. And I kept, that's not mine. That's not for me to deal with. That's.
But he had said something to check something, or there was something you had said.
Yeah, be sure to bring your passport.
That's right. Right.
Yeah, because she had misplaced her driver's license, and be sure to bring your passport so you have some form of government picture ID. And so when she went to the credit union to get a replacement, she had that, and it was oh, no problem. Since you have that, that's easy now.
Right.
Had she not had that.
Right. While y'all were traveling. Yeah.
Right. It would have been, we have to mail it to the address we have on file.
Yep.
But that was listening to guidance.
Yeah. And we don't think of it we don't think of those things as guidance, but it's but it's that thing that sort of taps on your shoulder. Right.
And he could have easily said, no, it's her problem.
Right.
And she also could have said, well, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to take the time to find it.
Right.
Before I leave.
Right. So it's just that and literally it's sometimes one step at a time, one 5 minutes at a time, or one thing at a time. And it's okay. And it might not make any sense in the moment. Right. So we've talked about this so many times, but I think that the unexpected is throwing so many for a loop because it's continuous now. Right. And it's we are numbing ourselves to it, which is great, because it's allowing us then to let go of expectations by saying, okay, well, it's the joke. It's the standing joke. Oh, what's going to happen this month in the world, right?
Right. Just throw it all out the window.
Yeah. So,
well, and speaking of guidance, when we were doing some errands before we took off in the car, we kept noticing that this little door on the back bumper just kept popping open. And I kept saying, what is this? And he goes, well, that's where you lower the spare tire. So we kept closing that and closing that and closing that. And he was like, I'm just going to glue that shut or something like that. And then it stayed shut.
Yeah.
but we knew where it was when we needed to.
That's fun. Yeah.
We told them. So it was like, I'm here for when you need me.
Exactly. Just so you know where I am, where you know
Right.
where I am.
Right.
Oh, that was perfect. Yeah. And so that's how it's going though. And I think we keep on doing it, like, and so it seems like there's this huge rush of unexpected things that are coming into people's individual lives as
Right.
well as at the collective level.
Right.
Right. And so yeah, we're coming to a place where we're beating ourselves down with it to say, okay, I'm just gonna, at some point you just gotta say, okay, well, what do I do now? Right? What do I do in this moment?
Right. It's like picking up your feet and just going with the flow.
Yeah.
Instead of standing there fighting it, going, oh, but what about this? And what about this? And what about this?
And the other thing that we talked about, I just looked at my notes because I was like, I got this like, oh, look, there's something else too that you were talking about yesterday. And I was like, what was that? The other thing is because there's other elements to the unexpected that we are adjusting our existence to, right? So
Right.
so like what I had written down in my notes is, are we phasing in and out of timelines constantly? Like,
Right.
and I think we are, because I think everything has moved together in frequency so much that
Right. And compressing almost.
right. And so we are remembering how to see through all the timelines, but sometimes it's such a habit for us to be focused in one that we pop in. Like I was talking about the whole thing with the helmet for my daughter.
Right.
And I mean, so many people I know, it's like I tell them like these kind of stories of things that are going on, and I tell them because, it's important for people to understand this is going on with everyone, and it's because it's a collective thing that we're doing while we're shifting, right? And so the gift that came on Friday was these like the roller derby skates from like the 80s, because those are apparently like, roller derby stuff is back in style, and 4 wheels, and and so my daughter really wanted a pair. 24 wanted to take it up, and so I was like, okay. So then we got her the pads to go with it. Now, and this is what I was telling you, but it was like a set, the pads, so it was like the wrist guards and the elbows and the knees and whatever. So when it had come in, I had opened up the box and I looked through it, and I know when I opened up the box there was no helmet in there. Right? And I was like, and so what was funny was the day before her birthday, my husband and I were at the store. We had to go to Dick's Sporting Goods for something else. And I said, we should get her a helmet too, because we just got her the pads. And then it was like, and so we went to 3 different stores looking for helmets, for bike helmets, bike or skating helmets or whatever for adults, which were non-existent because even the sporting goods stores are wiped out of bikes and everything related to bikes, right? Which is great because people are using bikes now, right? Again. Right. But we couldn't find any, like we found like maybe like 2 adult ones, and they were just not attractive at all. Let's just say. Right. I was like, we were just looking for like a plain black, and I said, it'd be great to just have a plain black one, right? It just need like all this weird stuff all over it. So finally we were just like, after 3 stores, we're like, you know what, fine, forget it. And if she wants to go get a helmet, we'll take her to go get a helmet after, right? So she opens her presents yesterday, opens the box, pulls out the pads, and with it, a black helmet.
I mean, that's perfect.
And to which Scott looks at me really quizzically, and I'm like, there was no helmet in that box. And I'm like, I opened that box and I checked everything out that was in there. How did I not see a helmet, right?
Right, yeah.
And it was so funny, so funny. And then I was like, I don't know, are we hopping back and forth between timelines? Because a lot of people I know are having situations like that, right? I know you have, like, we both have. It's like, you could have sworn, like, would have like bet money on something that doesn't exist, that like you could have sworn this happened or that this existed or whatever, and then it doesn't, or vice versa, or something just
Well,
appeared.
and I think a lot of that has to do with becoming more observant
Yeah.
and staying in that place of observation instead of being just embroiled in all the stories and all the drama that's going on at this level. And I think that that's when things become, the unexpected sticks out more because you're not lost in the drama all the time.
Right. Right. And when you start to find it like funny, right, humorous and fun, right, because it's like, oh, okay, well, how we're gonna be creative with this today.
Right. It's like, how can I play this game today?
Exactly. When you can start looking at it that way, it takes the fear and the uncertainty out. Like, because we are beating ourselves down. So, and I don't like using that terminology, but that's what we're sort of doing is we're just constantly pushing ourselves into places of unexpected discomfort,
Right.
so that it stops being uncomfortable and that we are just flowing with it, that we're just in this place of going, okay, all right, so guess what? I don't know, some asteroid just hit my house and it's time for me to go live in the woods. Okay.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
so, and somebody might laugh when they hear that, but it's like, seriously, things are becoming that unexpected.
Yep.
Because we are creating without context. And when we create without context, we have now shifted into a whole new paradigm of creating without context. And as we do that, and really, you and I have talked about creating without context since last year.
Right. Right.
And so it's like, okay, so we start doing that. And so, oh, I missed good morning, Gloria. I didn't see her comment on the bottom.
Yeah,
I know you can't see comments today. So, but it's just the, what was I saying now? I just totally lost my train of thought.
Being ready to create without the
Oh,
context.
creating without context. Yes, because in creating without context, we have to get rid of our expectations, right? So therefore, expectations, when they go away, everything becomes unexpected because you have no expectations.
Right. And
right?
everything also becomes an option.
Yes.
You aren't limited.
So it's like this. Those of us who work in energy work and in, I don't know, people call it psychic stuff or whatever you want to call it, consciousness. Let's just call it consciousness.
Right.
Like we learn, we remember how to function across different planes of reality. Remember how to do that, which we tend to forget, like in the human body. So that's the practice that we get into. And so the more we do it, the more it becomes, okay, you can't expect things when you're crossing dimensions and stuff because it just changes, the rules change all the time, right? So it's like,
right.
But if we're creating constantly and we can create without that expectation, then we can, it's like, then that's when we can really start listening to pure guidance, right? Because then we don't try to put this translation around what the guidance means.
Right.
Like I think about, there was a period of time where I had a lot of people. It's funny how like these things go in waves. And I remember like one year, there was a period of time where I had so many people that were calling me going, okay, this is going to sound ridiculous, but do you help people find lost things? And I'm like, I can, if you want. It's no different, And
Right.
like, and I remember, multiple times. I remember this one person that I knew through a completely different like circle of friends was like, okay, this is going to sound really weird and I feel weird asking this, but I was looking for this thing. And so like, I literally would tap in and I would get, okay, well, they've slipped into another dimension. Another part of you has, so that was where the timeline started to really vibrate together. Right. Yeah, so this has been happening for a while. And so I'm like, and that's all I would see is like, I feel like they're in another dimension or this is this particular object and something as inane as a pair of shoes, seriously. And so it's
right.
like, okay, so you can ask, okay, is it worth, like, can I bring them back? Sometimes you get no for
Right.
whatever reason. But then sometimes like, yeah, it's like, okay, well then let's bring them back. I'll never forget, that was the best story. Like there was somebody that I knew, and that she like had gotten these really nice shoes for this particular fundraiser event that she blah 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 blah. And she was like, well, she and her husband had gone on a cruise, and she came back and she called me up and she goes, all right, this is going to sound so ridiculous, but I bought these shoes right before I went on this cruise. I mean, they were expensive, but they matched perfectly with what I would wear to this fundraiser, da, da, da. And she was like, can you help me find them? She goes, I have torn the house apart. Nobody was in my house while we were gone. Nobody. And
Right.
she goes, so it's not like somebody broke into my house to steal a pair of shoes, right? And she's like, can I get them back? And so, I checked in and I got yes. And so I don't even remember we did some session together. And then I said, okay, so, and she's like, well, can I get him back before the fundraiser? And I think she had like a week and a half. And I was like, yeah, I think so. I feel like it. So we set it up. I said, let's set it up. I said, well, let it go now. But now you got to let it go.
Trust. Yeah. Trust.
And just trust. Just let it go. And so a week went by, and she texts me. She's panicking, right? They still haven't shown up, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, what'd I say? Just trust, right? And literally 2 days before the event, it was great. She calls me up, and she's like crying, laughing, crying. Like she didn't know like what she was like. It was the most bizarre thing that ever happened to me. She was, I got up, and I got up this morning, and I went into my closet, and the pair of shoes was literally sitting right in the doorway, like right in the doorway. Like somebody had placed them there for me. And I said, well, you did. And she's like, and I know I pulled everything out of my closet. I put it back in. So I know those were not there because it was right in the doorway, because I've been in and out of my closet so many times. And I was like, and I'm like, yeah. And it's funny because those kind of things, I mean, when we allow ourselves to cross over through dimensions and timelines and everything else, we can do stuff like that, because nothing is permanent in any space, right?
Exactly.
And so like there really is no permanence. Like the only permanence to me in this multiverse is non-permanence, right? It just is constantly shifting, right? In creation. Right. So it's like, well, we can do anything, and for us to allow ourselves to remember how to create that way, first we have to be like sort of beat it out of ourselves to expect things to look a certain way, or to be a certain way, or to play out a certain way, so
yeah, we're attached to that.
Yeah, we are attached to that. So that is, I feel like what is for us to work on today, I guess, is to allow that release, right? The release of expected outcomes, right? Expected, to allow the unexpected to be easy and to be fun and to be productive and fulfilling, and enjoyable, instead of, it's always something, right? How many times have you heard somebody say that, right? It's always something.
Right. You say that so well.
I've heard it so many times.
Accent on it.
I've heard it so many times. It's always something. And I hear it in my head sometimes. And whenever I've heard it in my head, I laugh at it, because there was actually a radio show I used to listen to, and the guy used to always say that. But then I've known other people say it too. And it's just like, okay, but that's for us to change. And you know what? Actually, you're right. It's always something different, always something created. Right.
Well, my favorite is when somebody says, see, I knew it.
Yeah.
That's the same as saying, see, I created that.
Right.
And they're not realizing that they're claiming that they created. And most of the time, it's usually something they don't want.
Yes.
But yet they're owning it.
Yeah. And they don't even realize it.
And it's like, do you realize what you're saying?
Right. Right.
So wouldn't you rather have something miraculous happen, or something totally unexpected in the way of, this is something I really want, and say, see, I knew I could do it.
Right. Well, and you know what, it's, we get into the patterns of negative self-speak, right, all the time.
Right.
And you know, and you say things like, ugh, I just know this is going to be like this, like, right, and as soon as you say that, you start creating it. Yeah,
absolutely.
And we don't realize that, right? So it's like, but then sometimes we're surprised, and that's where the unexpected is. We always give ourselves these elements of, I guess, the Joker, right? And so you can take it or you cannot take it. You can take it or resist it, you know, and then the more
and we're more prone to believe that we can create the negative and the disaster and all the things we don't want than we're prone to believe that we can create all the things we want, which just makes no sense to me.
Yeah. So Beth says, this is probably an entire session, but I would love to know exactly what will happen to our bodies and possibly the planet if we shift into the fifth dimension. I can't seem to find answers on this. That was a long one. I can't seem to find the answers on this topic. Some people say they're already there. I'm only seeing a hologram of them. Do you think large populations will just disappear, or will it seem like they're still here to the people left in this dimension? I understand if you can't get this today, can't get to this today, but I'm wondering. Well, it's actually related, because
it's, what do you expect?
What do you expect? Right?
And expect to happen, because you're going to create that.
I honestly believe that talking about shifting to the fifth dimension is limiting ourselves too, because I believe that we're shifting far beyond that. And so, like, I think the fifth dimension is part of the shift, but it's just one small part of it versus what many are thinking is like the end destination.
Right.
And so there's an expectation, right? Oh, well, we have to do this and da, 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 right? So, well, that is a whole session in itself. We might have to put that up. Oh, there's a lot to talk about there, which we might
work into next week
or the following week, when the Shasta experience is coming up for us, which we have going in a couple weeks. Entering the Wilderness by Mount Shasta in a couple of weeks, which is very exciting. So that's important, though, in terms of this topic. And thank you, though, Beth, because that is actually an important thing to talk about. Is the whole thing is what we expect. And so, like, here's the thing. I more and more am connected with those who I'm connected with here in a tighter, more seamless way energetically than ever before. Right. I mean, you and I communicate so flawlessly, like so seamlessly, and the others that we are connected with closely in the same way, it's seamless, right? Mm-hmm. We know when it's time to talk to each other. We know when it's time to get together. We know when it's time to do certain stuff. And that's so much more deep than the other mess that's going on, or all the stuff that's going on around us. We have gotten used to that unexpected. And that, to me, is what they call fifth dimensional living is about. It's really existing in a very different space, right? Where, you know, unembodied beings, or whatever the unembodied part of us, for example, well, we're talking about Mount Shasta, right? So the first time I went there in this life was 2012. And the moment I got there, I sobbed, because it was like I had hit the frequency of home that I had never realized I'd forgotten. And so I go back there because it's like nourishing, like remembering myself. And there's never a part of me. There's always a part of me that's there. Right. And we talk about this, and it's like, we always see ourselves together there, because we have the soul tribe base out of there for many of us in consciousness. And so that's fifth dimensional.
Right. Well, and who's to say that you can't have the expectation that you have part of you there and part of you still here?
Right. Right.
And live both. Yeah. Both are you.
Right. And we have this experience, and I think the more of us have these experiences of the unexpected, that's the shifting that people are like, and it's this expectation of what is this going to look like? You know, it's like any of us who do this kind of work or whatever, it's like when you know it, when you trust it, it's not like it becomes mundane, but it just becomes part of your everyday reality. So it sort of becomes your normal, right? And
Right.
then like, but if somebody else walked into my normality, they might be like, what? Kind of thing. And so it's just because I'm used to like living that. So yeah, I think many of us are already shifting there, and we're shifting beyond that as well. For putting that in a real close, tight little summary, I don't know what else you might want to add to that.
No, I agree. And I think it does all come back down to the expectation. I remember in reading, what was it, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, is that if you expect to go into this holding place that looks like heaven, like the Bible and everything else, that's what you'll find, if that's what your expectation is.
Right.
So if you're looking for that angelic realm, you know, with the harps and everybody sitting on a cloud with the, you know, the white gowns and everything, that's what you'll find, because that's what you're creating for yourself.
Right. Except we have the remembrance of all those levels of consciousness where we exist there already. Right.
Right. Right.
It just becomes like we put ourselves in such density, I think, in our bodies. That's been the game, right? That we forget in the density and the separation, that we're already there, that this is only a tiny piece of our consciousness, right? So the matter is how much of our consciousness is going to exist. So it's like, okay, so really what's the purpose? If we already exist in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, blah, blah, and all these dimensions, which we do, like as I understand it,
right,
then really what's truly what we're doing is, are we shifting the density into fifth dimension? Are we shifting more of our consciousness? You know, are we shifting separation into the fifth dimension? There's a lot of questions that go along with that, right?
Right. And I like to think of it as a microscope. You know, where's your field of vision in the focus of the microscope?
Yeah.
Because my favorite movie is The Men in Black. You know, you think that this is reality, and then you zoom into this whole world, and the Earth is just the marble.
Right.
You know, the world is in the locker.
Or the locker in the train station. Right.
Right. So it's just like the microscope. You know, you've got a universe at the microscopic level, and then you've got the universe at the macroscopic level, and it's just where you put in your focus, which I think of focus as intention.
Right. And so like, yeah. And when those of us who have been traveling to the, what we call sacred sites that have what I call overlays, dimensional overlays, right? And that's where I feel like we remember the experience of those other dimensions, right? More easily embodied. Mount Shasta is one of them. That the more we start to poke ourselves to remember, the easier it becomes. And then I believe it doesn't matter whether we have a physical presence here or not. I feel like we then just choose.
Right. Well, and I think we choose access here when that's what we remembered we needed or wanted, or chose to create at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that is a whole discussion for another day. But then we'll put that, maybe that'll be next Monday, Beth. We'll put that on the table and see what comes up. Because I know it must be something pending, because we have the Shasta Wilderness calling us in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, that must be something that's going to be important come up, which I can feel that in my body. That's a new topic for us to hit on. So thank you. But it does connect to this, because for us to truly embrace it, whatever that is, whatever we've agreed for the experience to be, then it's first of all for us to embrace the unexpected as a normal, right? To allow the unexpected to be okay, and to be enjoyable, and to be fun and exciting versus scary and negative. So I think that's where we start today. So obviously Beth gave us a little preview into next week or the week after, and how this is going to develop. So for today, it's Let's focus on the remembrance of allowing the unexpected, like that I allow the unexpected with ease and grace and fun and joy, you know, productivity, flow, um, productivity, prosperity. You can add whatever you want in there, but basically have it be and allow it to be my normal. Allow it to be my normal in a way that serves me in the biggest picture, right? Or optimizes my biggest picture. Oh, that feels really good.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. So I can feel that's making me tingly. All right, well, let's go do that. So anybody who's not watched before or listened before, whether you're live or out of time and space, we just close our eyes and connect in. We just take a deep breath. Even if you don't know how to do that consciously, we just take a deep breath and relax and be open to receive. That was really cool.
Do you remember what I said before we get on the call about I had my computer on my suitcase and that it might fall and all that kind of stuff? I created it to fall by having the expectation because it fell.
Did it? That's so funny.
And I just had to laugh, and I was like, why would I create that?
Right.
Why would I create that? So
yeah.
But very first thing I heard when I went out there right before it fell was be the unexpected.
Be the unexpected. I love that.
Love that. And I just kept, I mean, the possibilities are just mind-blowing.
I love that. Be the unexpected.
Yep. That's my new thing.
Yep. I'll take that one too this week. That's a good one. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I saw this vortex, and it was for lack of a better term, it was like the vortex of creation, right? And as soon as we allowed the unexpected, it got so big, and then it went so different, so many different facets of it. I can't even explain it. It was so cool because it got so big, so expanded, and then I just went way out there. Right. And I was hearing my kids saying, "You're not ready to do that," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I am."
Right. It's one of those things where I was born ready for this.
Oh yeah, I'm here for this. I'm here for this party right now. Yeah.
Right.
And after that, it was just it was so peaceful though. It was like everything flowed through, which then goes with the whole like flowing through of what we've been working on past week. So
really nice.
Lovely. Beth had said, "That's a lot to know. Thanks. That's a lot I know. That's a lot I know. Thanks." Of what we had said. And then
right.
I guess apparently what we said was a lot of what she knew. So that was good. And then Yasmin just said yes. So probably to whatever we were talking about with what we thought.
Right.
Be the unexpected. I love that.
Yep.
So don't even let it happen to you. Be the unexpected, which is
exactly. Imagine taking that the force of nature that creates the earthquakes or the tornadoes or hurricanes or whatever,
and be that.
And that's you.
Well, and that's the Kali, right? That's the Kali and the Pele and whatever you want to. Yeah, that kind of energy. I see it too. Awesome. Well, on that, everyone have a great week and don't even let the unexpected come to you. You be the unexpected, right?
Exactly.
And then when the unexpected happens, just be like, what is there for me to do? What is there for me to be right now? That's it. One step at a time. Have a fabulous week, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Evignoni
with this week's Ascended World. Have a good one.